when 6.11 hit the Rift, but it is definitely much more popular now, and the Vlad will also be taken out.
This is actually something really interesting that we're seeing from everybody that plays against Roccat, where they have to put 2 bans down into Betsy. They've basically said, you're not allowed to play Swain, you're not allowed to play Vlad, because we know how powerful you are in these champions. And the fact that Roccat draw these bans consistently means that a lot of power picks are still left available.
Yes, indeed. The Rise, much more standard in that regard. The Caitlyn ban as well, although Steeelback has certainly been showing up. But with the jungle hit so heavily on Rocket's side and the less traditional mids on the side of Schalke, that's going to be the first pick, Azir. Bird is the word.
Interesting. So Betsy, he didn't get his first bird of choice, so he's going to go for the second one. And Azir, even after the nerfs on patch 6.11, is still a very popular and potent pick, with scaling very nicely into the mid and late game and can have a pretty significant impact when trying to play around those team fights.
Betsy yesterday having a little bit of trouble trying to just not get caught out in the early game versus Origin, and Azir should give him a little bit more hustle in his moves. I expect to see that. And Schalke, well, let's see if they key off on that one. Instead, they're going to opt really quickly for a pair of pickups, the Karma and the Gragas. So Gragas kind of becoming the de facto tank jungler without Elise in the picture.
So already from Schalke we can see the formation of somewhat of a pick composition, a lot of disengage available when you combine both the Karma and the Gragas together. Gragas using that barrel to not only get those priority targets into those awkward positions, but he's also good at saying, oh, we don't want to fight right now, I'm just going to disengage. You guys have a drink on your own because we're off to go do something else.
Right, yeah, he's got the disengage versus like something like a Rek'Sai being able to go full engage. But Airwaks, he grabs himself the Kindred, and he's had, we've talked about his performance lately not really being up to ship shape. His Kindred has been pretty crucial to a lot of those fights when they've gotten their hands on it. He's played a lot of Gragas recently, but most notably, the Kindred has really only fallen down to the likes of G2.
Yeah, he's played 3 games of Kindred so far, and his performance has been reasonable. So definitely on something that he is pretty comfortable with. And so far from Roccat, they've definitely got themselves a lot of power picks. Even after the nerfs to both Kindred and Azir, a lot of players still consider them to be top tier. And Roccat getting the Braum on top of that means that so far they are building a very well-rounded teamfight composition which has a tanky front line, great for setting up disengage, really good in these choke points. And Roccat so far have a very well-rounded composition.
Absolutely. Curious to see how they end up rounding it out, but you know, we still have to note that weakness in the early game. If they can be more proactive with the tools that they have, we might see things changing. For Schalke's side, they've got themselves some serious poke. A Varus picked up for Fox, a Jhin for ROC, and into a Braum that can block a lot of that.
Well, the thing about Braum is he can only block one. Well, I mean, if people stack their poke, then yes, he can block multiple poke skills. But typically he's not like the anti-poke. I wouldn't necessarily consider him to be the be-all and end-all to stop all pokes, but definitely will act as a pain in the backside for Roccat or for Schalke to deal with. The big thing here is the fact that they've gotten themselves positive matchups. They've got the Varus into the Azir, very favorable matchups. One of the reasons as to why we haven't seen a huge priority on getting Azir in the early rotations is because of how many counter picks there are into that champion. So picking up the Varus here, Schalke guaranteeing themselves a positive matchup in the mid. Jhin, very powerful laner, and with the nerfs to Lucian as well, Schalke are going to have a very strong bottom lane. So Schalke right now, they're all about that early game. They want to have that lane dominance because they know this is Rockat's weakness.
And for Roccat, they get themselves Lucian to pair up with that Braum in the duo lane and a Trundle for top lane that is going to be blind. They'll wait to see what Schalke respond with, but so far, as you said, reasonable matchups for them all across the board. And now, I don't want to get too excited over the hover, but they're just a little bit of a nod to Parang, rather.
It would fit well with Schalke's we want to win lane, because something that Jace is very powerful at is winning that lane. That makes more sense,
though.
The nod does make more sense. And again, it's something that's very powerful up against the Trundle. Trundle struggles so much with the kiting potential that Nardas has. And if you just look at the whole composition from Schalke, it is very much about keeping their opponents at distance. You have the Gragas and the Karma for the disengage. You have great poke coming out from both the Varus and the Jhin. Gnar can put a fair amount of poke down as well, but basically, Schalke are saying, we want to keep your arm's length. We want to make sure that you can never actually set up a full-on 5 versus 5 team fight. And because they've gotten themselves strong laners as well, it does seem like Schalke have come into this matchup with a very solid plan.
Yeah, definitely scouting out their opponents 100% of the way. Have to see how this one does pay off. Schalke very strong in that early game phase if they start executing on it. Strong lanes Have to wonder how Roccat are going to respond. Do they try to opt for a lane swap, fast pushing, delay the game a little bit, or will they go for something very standard? As the coaches shake hands to walk off stage, this rivalry is about to get underway.
Certainly will be, and I think this will be quite the exciting matchup. We have some interesting comps. Pretty big team fight comp, bit of a 1-4 coming out from Roccat, as well as the big disengage comp coming out from Schalke. Let's see who can execute better.
Yes, we will indeed see. Now, keep the Twitter fingers a-flowing at home. Hashtag ROC win if you think the Roccat boys will start getting back on the board today, or S04 win if Schalke 04 will be the one who takes this game away. Keep them going all game long. We'll keep on checking in on those as we are ready up to load onto the Rift.
Game 1 between Schalke and Roccat.
The hype is mounting.
The hype is indeed mounting.
They brought the jerseys to play. They've come to do it, but it looks like we've got a quick pause so we suspend the tension in motion.
Yes, so hold on to your seats. I know the tension is mounting, but it is still the early game.
Yes, so exactly 11 seconds in.
Yes, so this gives us some time to think about what we're going to be seeing in this early game, because when you just compare the two compositions, both are pretty item reliant. The big exceptions will be up in the top lane, where you have the Gnar. Once he gets that very early black cleaver, he's going to be quite the powerhouse, going to be doing a lot of damage down to that Trundle. And because of how rough this matchup could be for Parang, then Roccat might look to lane swap. And something that we did see from Schalke in particular yesterday was their lane swap up against Fnatic was actually very clean, something that we heard the casters praise them for yesterday. So if Schalke forced the lane swap out of Roccat, this could be already a great way for them to kick off their first game.
Definitely could indeed. So if you're wondering what the cause of the pause is, by the way, guys, a quick bathroom break for Airwaks. So he's skipping the early game entirely, it looks like, but he'll be back soon. And
when you gotta go, man.
I mean, yeah, I guess. It just happens every now and again. But I do think that forcing that lane swap, while it can be very, very beneficial to Schalke's side, that's not a terrible lane to take in. The Lucian Braum was, noted for being a really, really strong straight-up 2v2. But Lucian's kind of had some changes, and he's been a fallback pickup for Steeelback, which is why the Caitlyn ban was so critical against them. I think this Jhin Karma comp, I mean, that is so pokey. That is so irritating to deal with.
It really is. And Jhin has been known to have a very powerful laning phase naturally. And when you compensate his weakness of low mobility with a Karma, which enables you to run really fast, it becomes a very difficult lane to deal with. So it would make a lot of sense for Roccat to just avoid the standard lanes overall and just go for the 2 versus 1 up in the top, as well as the standard lane swap.
I always wondered how Karma as a shield actually gives you the speed boost. I kind of imagine that it's like she's shouting encouraging words and then you just go faster.
I believe you can do it.
Because that fits her profile, right? She's not like she's not going to be the one who whips you into shape or anything. No, you can do this. We got it.
Well, I mean,
it's encouraging.
She does have an ability called Inspire.
Exactly.
That's what she's basically doing. She's
it's very thematically appropriate.
It's like run, Forest, run.
That is actually the ability.
We've nailed it, Pyra.
Yeah.
We've done it.
So Inspiring gives you more health, or gives you shield rather, and speed boost. And I've just been informed we are about to get back into it. We're loading right up, so no harm, no foul to start things off. And unfortunately, sprattel, I think, burned all of his hype out.
Does seem that way.
Yeah. Well, that might be a problem for Schalke. We'll have to find out. We're about to load up for real this time, guys. We promise. Onto the Rift.
Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Game 1 between Roccat and Schalke 04, as the crowd seem to be getting pretty hyped. And we do see varus in the mid lane. Looking forward to this matchup.
Oh, yeah. Dedicated fan bases, too. Schalke having one of the biggest in German football, but Borussia Dortmund also quite big. So Roccat maybe grabbing a little bit of that hype for themselves as they go a little deep in to get the invade on. Gilius has spotted it out immediately.
So they want to get some deep vision down. Want to identify what Schalke's trying to do in the early game. It will also help Roccat with their setup if they do decide to go for the lane swap. And this is some very deep vision coming out from Roccat, clearly indicating to Schalke, we want to know exactly what you're doing. And so we can play around it and get the lanes that we want so that we perhaps can avoid that 2 versus 2.
Well, Schalke's done the same, opting to mirror the vision just to make sure that they know what's going on as well. With Steve backing away, he'll be running down towards the bottom lane. It looks like Schalke will be taking actually a very slow if they want to go up to the top lane. Maybe they're not going to go for it here.
So it does look like that Roccat are just waiting for somebody to stand on a ward. They're hovering around the mid because they desperately want to avoid this 2 versus 2 based on what we're seeing right now. And now they've made the decision, right, we have to go to the top lane, we have to get to a lane. They're going to get spotted out by a ward from Schalke, which means that, oh, it does actually look like that Schalke, they're going to avoid the 2 versus 2.
Yeah, it was too late, and they moved down back towards the bottom side. Sprattel's going to get a little bit more of a roam on level 1. Not expecting this. Betsy really wouldn't be. He's got his cleanse and flash though. Oh. And unfortunately sprattel misses, but the instantaneous ignite. Fox is going to keep going for him. Do they have enough damage with the auto? The karma Q, no, it's gonna be not enough. Burn the flash, but he gets out alive.
Wow, so it looks like Schalke taking a very similar approach to what Origin did yesterday, which was shut Betsy down. This guy has been so instrumental in Rockat's team fighting prowess that basically teams have decided, well, let's just hurt this mid laner as much as we possibly can and shut him down during the early game. So having already burnt Betsy's flash, this could really hurt his laning phase moving forward.
Yeah, still it's going to be, should be a very quiet laning phase since the push is happening, the reverse push on either side. However, that's still a long time before that flash does come off cooldown. We talked about how good of a matchup this is for the varus, and now you see Gilius hanging out in this jungle right below Betsy. He's got the cleanse, but he's already starting to get poked out by Fox.
Certainly is. Betsy only, well, just about to hit level 2, but here we have your standard lane swap between Schalke and Roccat. Avoiding the standard lanes. We have to see, oh, okay, I just identified it is a Cloud Drake. I thought we might see some priority on the Dragon, but unlikely, given that the teams do not value the Cloud Drake as much as they do other Dragons. So rather than lose tempo, very likely that they'll just revert back to the separate lanes and then go for the standard tower push that we have been seeing pretty regularly throughout the LCS.
Yeah. So far, we can pretty much predict how things are going to go, but Roccat, they're kind of hoping for this, it seems. They don't really want to be put on the back foot early. They know that their power tends to come in the later game. However, this composition still, it has a nice scaling ability. You talked about how balanced it is. I'm curious to see if they're the ones that actually start the action this time around versus Schalke.
Well, this is the big question. Something that the casters were talking a lot about yesterday was the lack of proactivity coming out from Roccat. They just didn't do anything, largely facilitated by their lack of vision control when in this just standard laning phase. When trying to play around objectives, teams are typically pretty good at setting up that vision to enable them to make the plays around that objective. But when you have a lot of downtime, teams will often get a little bit lax, and so they won't have the same sort of vision control they would have when potentially setting up for a Dragon or a Baron. And that is the opportunity that other teams have been capitalizing on, in particular from Origin yesterday, using the lack of vision from Roccat to get those blind arrows and set up the picks onto Betsy.
Yeah, have to keep an eye on how the vision placement happens early on this game. Still very, very standard, pretty much 50-50 on the control factor, and that's pretty much a very fair and very normal for your typical football match. First couple minutes aren't going to have a whole lot of action. The teams are going to try each other out. So at least they're keeping in the theme. The reverse swap on the top side, sprattel and MrRalleZ. Meanwhile, down on the bottom, the dual lane of Steeelback and RALEZ are going to keep it happening. And a teleport in from Parang. So it's actually Steve who's slightly behind the 8 ball on this. He's going to be taking the long path, followed by Gilius. Meanwhile, back in the mid, Airwaks has found Fox and punishes him. But not before Betsy was chunked out as well. 2 summoners burned by the varus to get away.
Yeah, Airwaks did burn his flash aggressively as well, but this is good from Airwaks. He recognizes the pressure that came down onto Betsy very early on, and he immediately responded by moving to the mid lane himself, and now Fox is in a similar position, so it's going to be hard for Fox if he wants to try and overcommit for a kill onto Betsy.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting, because normally when we see these 3v3s and repeated 3v3s, the mid lane is often the quietest place, but there's been so much action, so all the summoners pretty much burned, with the exception of Betsy's cleanse already, within the first few minutes alone. So you can tell that's really where the teams are putting their focus, putting the action, and trying to make sure that they can shut the other one down.
And I like that you mentioned the cleanse, because yesterday in Rocket's game versus Origin, I think Betsy really would have liked to cleanse up against the
way too hard. Yeah, that Victor with Ghost Flash, I don't think we'll be seeing that out of Betsy anytime soon again.
But he's picked it up for the Varus ultimate this time. He's not even going to risk the potential of getting caught out. He has that defensive summoner spell available. You also have the pick potential from MrRalleZ on that Jhin. He can also land the root down. So it's a smart summoner spell, especially in this matchup. And I think Betsy has learned a harsh lesson from his mistakes.
Yeah, certainly wasn't the only one. It's definitely still smarting, I'm sure. Betsy does poke out Fox a little bit here. Now he's trying to and dodge the piercing arrow, manages it. And you can see the advantage of having this varus and having so much pressure in this lane early on. The CS differential, pretty close to double digits already for the 2 mid laners, but he did get a wave bounce back in his face, so Betsy should be able to nibble a few more minions down. Airwaks still hanging close around this mid lane, while as Gilius was a little bit more well-traveled around the map.
That does seem to be the case. Right now, it does seem like Roccat, their junglers, just sticking to the half of the map that is strongest to them. So that's why Airwaks right now trying to steal away some of the camps in Schalke's top half of the jungle, because that is where his bottom lane is, and that's where he feels the safest. But 3 members strong right now in the top half of Rockat's, in the top half of the map for Roccat, and they might look to get a bit of damage onto this tier 2 turret.
Yeah, Parang is actually going to weave his way out of the jungle, and it's going to be matched by Schalke, but Roccat are actually the ones that are in position a little bit quicker. They've only got 3 members, whereas there's 4 of Schalke now on this bottom side, so we will have an inner tower push. Neither team wanting to contest it. Wisely, though, I would think, with the way the collapse happened. And Roccat, they're the one who are winning the game of inches right now. 7 minutes in, it is a 3-tower to 3-tower game, and it looks like it could be more.
So this is actually really big for Roccat in terms of the tempo advantage, because they only have 3 members in the top half of the map. They're going to be able to push this minion wave all the way under Schalke's turret. They're going to get a bit of damage down onto this tier 3, and because the rest of Schalke aren't backing, they're actually going to lose a lot of health on this turret.
Yeah, Roccat, they're the ones who made the proactive move this time. The tower will regen, but very slowly. It's an 8-minute inhibitor tower that they were eyeballing right now, and if not for Steve getting back a little bit sooner, they might have lost that one.
So the reason why this is actually very big for Roccat is because now Parang was able to pick up the wave in the bottom, and he can freeze it. That means that the wave isn't going to push back towards Schalke, and Parang is going to be soaking up so much farm, whereas Steve, he has to now deal with a lane that is pushing towards Roccat as well.
Not only that, Roccat are still starting to take away jungle. Gilius comes just a little bit too late and sees that his red buff has been stolen out from under his nose. They have a lot of vision on the bottom side of the jungle, but there's no way for them to really get in there unless they want to rush in. Roccat, they're ahead by a minute and growing. They just seem to be one step ahead of Schalke. And
this is nice to see. We did the big question on a lot of the casters' minds, in particular about this game, is how is Roccat going to be doing in the early game? And so far, in terms of the lane swap, they've been executing beautifully.
Yeah, it doesn't really reflect too much in the gold when you only have a 200 difference, but they do seem to have the tempo advantage. They're using it very well, and they negated the aggression that was happening. Betsy's all back to normal. You have your summoners back. Schalke do go down and eventually take away the red buff, but look, now the rest of Roccat are here in a position to maybe deal, but Airwaks heedlessly runs in, and Gilius just flashes on him, knocks him forward, instant lambs respite. The chains are on. I don't see him getting out of this one. In comes Raze, but the rest of the team has arrived to the rescue. Airwaks gets bailed out. A curtain call comes in, but they're body blocking.
Really good response from Roccat to keep their jungler alive. He was just trying to farm in his own jungle. He didn't realize that deep vision was down from Schalke, but it comes back to exactly what you were talking about, Pyra. All of the vision from Schalke was in the bottom half of the map, and Roccat, they should have predicted this. They were only there a few moments ago, taking down that tier 2 turret. Airwaks gets caught out, but fortunately Raises in a position where he can provide that support. Airwaks, again, just sticking around the half of the map, which is where his strong side. He is with his bottom lane, and because of the instant teleport coming out from Parang, they're able to keep their jungler alive.
This is true, but they still ended up conceding some time on the map. Yes, it was just a cloud dragon, but imagine that it had been an infernal or a mountain. It starts to get a little bit more dangerous, a little bit rougher, and this is what we criticize Airwaks for. Getting caught out. He had a lot of death prevention, but he had to pop his ulti. His team had to arrive to be there. They still took a lot of poke damage, a lot of chunk. Schalke really made a good move on that, and it's really Roccat just getting out by the skin of their teeth, and no first blood 10 minutes in, but no, that could change very quickly if Airwaks disrespects the side of the map once again.
Certainly could, and the big thing here for me is, again, it coming back to this big play that Roccat made in the top half of the map where they went for that tier 2 turret and they were able to get the minion wave to bounce back in their favor. They then had their bottom lane shove out the bottom half of the map because that was going towards Schalke, and they allowed Parang to just soak up all of the farm that was coming towards Rockat's half. So the fact that Parang was able to soak all this up and Rockat's bottom lane could just keep on shoving with Airwaks providing support enabled Parang to build up this massive CS discrepancy. And now sprattel, he's taking a lot of damage.
Ooh, Fire was not enough. Had to flash away. The red buff is ticking his health bar down, but he just can't get out. First blood to Airwaks.
Wow, so the red buff is just enough damage to get Roccat first blood, and now they are 3 members strong. There is no response from Schalke. They're going to get a tier 2 turret in the bottom lane.
Woo, woo. Just one person stepping out of line is all it takes. Schalke trying to respond, but there's no way you can get through Parang's Trundle. That's going to be an inner tower. 11.5 minutes. These are the first casualties of this game. So many towers taken. 4 now to 3. And Schalke are going to try to answer with an outer in mid.
This is a good response coming out from Schalke, but they do need to be mindful of the potential collapse coming out from Roccat, because RaLeZ and Airwaks are moving through the river right now. They want to try and provide some additional support to Betsy. And remember, he still has his ultimate available. He could look to make a play.
And he gets the shuffle out onto Gilius, and in comes RaLeZ for the defense. Gilius is trying to shuffle his way to freedom, but he's stopped by Parang. Takes a drink, and maybe he can get out, but no! RaLeZ will take him down.
And Roccat get themselves another kill in the mid lane. Betsy, he had his ultimate available. Schalke felt like they could continue their push onto the mid lane turret, and they get punished for it. Excellent execution coming out from Roccat. They knew that Gilius didn't have his flash, and they get themselves another kill on the board.
Oh, yes, indeed. Channeling the Borussia Dortmund, looking for that win. Who have that leaderboard in their own league. Head-to-head, Fox, he's collapsed on, nowhere to go at all. And Roccat, that's 3 kills now that they have 12.5 minutes in. Well, we asked a question about proactivity. That doesn't seem to be a problem this time around, Vedius.
No, there certainly is not. They're once again catching Schalke with their pants down, really, as Fox completely overextended in the mid lane. He eats a Braum Q in the mid lane. I mean, that is not how you want to be getting caught out, especially in this first game of this best of 2.
This is the team that crafted a specific composition. We want to have poke, we want to have disengage and force you to come at us, but also we know we can siege down quickly. The problem with the poke composition, especially when your disengage isn't there, is you can just get caught really easily, and Schalke are finding that out the hard way.
Certainly are. You still have a low mobility mid laner in Varus, you have a low mobility AD carry in Jhin, and if these two members are not with the tanky front line that can provide that peel, it's exactly as you said, they just give away these free kills over to Roccat. Roccat are doing everything that they can to capitalize, so props to Roccat for having what looks to be one of their best early games so far.
Oh yeah, it started to swing the gold in their favor, and there's your statistical anomaly right there. Usually this is the team that has to come back from the deficit, but they're 13 minutes in and things are looking pretty solid for them. 2 minutes on the next dragon, it will be the Ocean, but Roccat, they have their sights set elsewhere for now. Getting a little bit of counter jungle on Schalke, still trying to pressure up in the top side, but Parang, he's proving more than a match for them.
Certainly is. Parang on this Trundle has just been soaking up farm in the side lane. Right now, Schalke, 2 members strong in the top half of the map. They may look to try and force a Rift Herald, which would be great for Steve to get. This Gnar can be quite oppressive, but because the lane has constantly been so shoved up against Parang, you've never really seen that Gnar be able to bully this Trundle around, and this is why... Ooh, flash engage!
Yep, he gets the knockup. They find Fox. A full channel of culling is not even necessary. Roccat with a massive collapse, but Airwaks, he's taking too many tower shots, and he gets popped right into tower once again. Airwaks low. Steve looking for an in here. They're not going to find it, and a clutch heal from Steeelback saves the life of their jungler.
It certainly was. Steeelback, the real MVP right there, not only getting himself the kill, but also keeping his jungler alive. Fantastic execution coming out from Roccat. And RaLeZ, we knew this support to be that hard engaged support coming in over from Korean Challenger. And he liked to play these champions like the Thresh, like the Alistar, basically diving into the front line and forcing these plays to happen. And finally, we're seeing that come out from RaLeZ. He goes to the flash underneath the turret, he gets that ultimate down, and he sets up Roccat to get themselves another kill.
What was Airwaks doing there in the first place? He sat under tower for a good 1.5 seconds after the rest of his team had already left. Still these positional errors, still the question marks. But the good news for Roccat is their team covering each other's backs. Steeelback, you said it, the MVP right there of that play. 100% in spades, and it's prevented them from even losing a man this game.
So I just had statistician whisper beautiful.
Stats wave?
Yeah, the stats wave. We just had some beautiful information. This is the first time Roccat have had a gold lead at 15 minutes. So
it's a new day for this team. Airwaks face checking, flashing over, and that's going to be Gilius, sprattel, and MrRalleZ bailing out. Roccat thought they had the reverse trap on that one, and this will be Ocean Drake started.
Really good flash coming out from Airwaks to avoid the CC coming out from Schalke. Just demonstrating that Airwaks is definitely on the ball today. Just quick response, quick reaction, good collapse coming out from the rest of Roccat, and they force Schalke back and get themselves that first trade.
It's reverse psychology, man. They make him look tasty, and then they're like, we got you this time. So Roccat still 4-0 up in this game, and Schalke are 0-4, unfortunately. As the dragon gets picked up, the next one will be Cloud Drake in several minutes, so we don't have much to worry about on the bottom side of the map. Betsy, going to be joined pretty soon by RaLeZ. They're going to try to get this outer tower. The Azir really recovering from the early pressure that was put on him. Chains of Corruption now onto RaLeZ, but he's got Unbreakable on Gilius, bopping his way forward, but the barrel will not connect anywhere, and sprattel, he can't get anything done either. Rocket's still playing fairly strong on this bottom side of the map and avoiding any unnecessary confrontation. Really good disengage out of this team.
Really enjoying the duo pair of RALEZ and Airwaks right now. They're moving around the map constantly looking for these plays. And they're both at 1, 0, and 3 right now. And Airwaks, he's going aggressive.
Yeah, he wants to jump this wall. Goes right on in. And Steeelback right behind him. Airwaks finishes it off. Ignited, though. Can he make it out alive as Steve has come for backup? Throws on Lamster's fight. Fox around the side. It's going to pop. He shouldn't live long. And a piercing arrow. No, rather it's RalleZ that takes the kill. Roccat might be in over their head here. In comes the Braum ulti, but Gilius pops 2. That's going to be a double. Over to RalleZ. They'll find Parang. And it's not going to be a triple. Fox will take the kill away. 3 for none. Over to Schalke.
Roccat just being a little bit too over-aggressive right there. You have control over the map. Everything is going in your favor. You don't need to dive into Schalke's base. You're just asking for them to come back into this game, and Airwaks trying a little bit too hard to force this play. Just have a look at how this actually gets set up. Airwaks, he dives over the wall. Yes, he's able to get the kill done onto sprattel, but he has to use so many resources just to get that kill. Steeelback, he's tanking up the tower on the back line. He's forced to retreat quickly, and there's no way that Roccat can provide support to help Airwaks out. They end up over-committing, and that results in Schalke being able to clean up this fight.
This is just such a different Roccat to what we're used to seeing, though. Trying to avoid any confrontation at all. This time they knee-jerk the other direction. They get punished pretty big there, so Schalke, they start to close that gold gap a little bit more, but all the same, Roccat, see if they learn from their mistakes going forward. Schalke now getting a little bit more vision in the respite that they've got themselves down on the bottom side. Not necessarily to contest that Cloud Dragon, but just to make sure they keep tabs on what's going on in the Roccat camp. Airwaks RALEZ doing the same thing up on the top side, and a huge investment in pink wards just all across the board. So at the very least, lessons being learned for Roccat in the vision department.
Yes, it certainly seems that way. Right now, Schalke, they're the ones that seem to be prioritizing this vision. As Roccat, they're actually in a great setup right now to take themselves this Rift Herald, and what efficient timing to actually pick this one up. Parang wants to be that split push on the Trundle, and he's going to have this available to him until 39 minutes into the game. So smart play coming up, but they're actually going to give it to Airwaks.
Yeah, Parang's not there.
Not a massive fan of this. I guess Roccat, they just want to pick up the objective, and they want to make sure that it is off the board. I mean, it's an objective. You can't be too upset about taking that one away for free. They didn't have to invest too much, and they might actually be able to get this mid-turn.
Yeah, but Airwaks, he might be chunked really low in this because they got him on the chains. The barrel bop, and Steve finishes the job. Still far out of position. RALEZ now a little low, having to flash. Steeelback having to heal. And all of a sudden, the tables get turned. Schalke looking to contest this tower.
So again, Roccat, they just stay a little bit too long for that turret. Airwaks, he does not have his flash, and he is not respecting the pick potential coming out from Schalke. And as a result, he ends up getting picked off, and Schalke, they might be looking for a dive.
Yeah, Gnar still going strong. Parang is the only one, though, who's showing face here in this tower. They've got no minions to start pushing it just yet. Schalke are still hoping for someone to step out of position, but Roccat are towing the line.
They certainly are. They have the double AD carries. They have an easy way to take down this tier 1 turret in the mid lane, and it's very likely that they're going to be able to do it. Parang, he doesn't have the wave clear to stop this, and that is now Schalke equalizing up the turret score.
So they managed to get something back for that, and Roccat head scratching, trying to wonder what went wrong. Airwaks still a little out of position in the team, just looking scattered when they don't have that 5-man cohesion. There's still problems, but at least they are making these plays 20 minutes in, and we've had much bigger bloodbath than we might have expected coming into today.
But the thing is for Roccat is they had a good start. They didn't need to force plays at this point. They only really needed to force something if they were at a disadvantage, and right now, they're actually trying to set up a sneaky Baron play.
Yeah, they're forcing that for sure. Parang, he's way low. They had to pop Lamster's spike for this. There is no one the wiser, though, because who does the 20-minute Baron? That's the question. Apparently, it's Roccat, and they get it right under Schalke's nose.
Wow. Roccat with the superior vision control. They cleared this out earlier with the Rift Herald. They made sure that Schalke would not be in a position to know that this was going on. And when you have the Kindred combined with the Trundle, and you send your 3 members mid to make it look like you're just trying to set up a siege, Schalke get completely blindsided, and Roccat pick themselves up a massive objective to re-solidify their lead.
Yeah, now what can they do with it? That's the real question. Still having some trouble with the fights, and right now, all 5 members rocking the Baron buff, but they're all 5 members up the mid, still waiting for this minion wave, but now Schalke have had a little bit of time to recall off the 1-3-1 and start defending this. Can Roccat secure it?
Certainly seems like they're going to try as they go very aggressively onto Gilius.
But he's the tower.
Going to be able to get away from that one on Roccat. They should be pretty happy with picking up that tier 1 turret in the mid lane.
Oh, they prevented the flank too. Steve, he was spotted out by that ward nearly in Gnar form as he walked away from bottom side. Next dragon comes up, it's the Cloud Drake, and it looks like Roccat might think about just taking this one. Shouldn't be contested as Schalke may not be as interested.
Well, they just want to get it off the map, but the sooner it's gone, the better.
Bring the next one.
Is my motto for the Cloud Drake. So it will be the Ocean Drake, which not a bad dragon to get. Definitely something that you can have some value around. But it is all building towards that Elder Drake, which amplifies all these stats, and you can't ignore those amplified stats if you ever pick up that Elder.
Yeah, and the tower push to boot. I mean, Roccat have kind of settled into this. We're going to try and siege you down. Right now, the Baron buff definitely helping them to do it, but they still have to be careful. Gilius' Gragas ultimates have been so clutch for Schalke finding pickoffs this game, and there just is so much damage on this side. If they have the carries in the back untouched, Fox and RALLZ can continue to just fire those shots down the way, and it is so rough to go into a hail of bullets like that.
It certainly is, and right now...
Well, and arrows.
Yeah, right now things are going to slow down just a little bit. Roccat, they have the Baron, but now they need to start sieging onto these tier 2 turrets, and when you have so much poke and wave clear coming out from Schalke with the varus and with the Jhin, things are going to be a lot harder right now for Roccat to be able to pick themselves up any big objectives, and there's no Baron for them to fight over. They can't force a team fight around the Baron, so they can't rely on these late game team fights right now.
I mean, on the other hand, when the reason you can't fight over Baron is because you already got it,
yeah.
I don't think that's the worst problem in the world. Airwaks is caught, though. Again, they chunk him oh so low and knock him in just inside of the Lamb's Respite, but the rest of the team keeps on body blocking. It's protect the Airwaks, and it's working.
This pick composition coming out from Schalke is just working so well for them right now. It is so hard for Roccat to effectively set up the siege with Steeelback.
Oh, the Ghost Blade pop! Not enough damage dealt, but they do force them back to try and take down the turret. Gilius coming in, flashes. He can't get the big barrel, though. It's still on the cooldown. Raze, though, is too low, and Fox will finally find him. Big Gnar around the side, and Steve cleans up Steeelback. Looking now onto Parang, and Roccat overstepping their bounds with not enough members. Will lose 3 in payment for that turret.
Schalke do a good job of baiting Roccat into to take that turret for themselves, because Roccat, they felt like, oh, we have the numbers advantage. Schalke, they've just burnt all of their ultimates to try and get on a kill down onto Airwaks, and they failed. So let's take down this tier 2 turret. They don't realize that Schalke is lying in wait for the flank, and they get themselves so many good kills.
Excellent second win. Let's take a look at this play one more time. Parang, Raze, Steeelback thought they were safe, but then...
They certainly did. Just have a look at the positioning of Gilius and Steve. They are just lying in wait for Roccat to just ever so slightly overextend. Good flash from Steeelback, but then they are not expecting this teleport play. Raze, he takes a little bit too much damage, doesn't quite respect the poke that Schalke has, and then it's just a matter of cleanup after Steeelback goes down to that warm embrace of Steve.
Goes to show the short-range teleports can definitely matter too. Airwaks is going to find Steve in mini Gnar form. That is a lot of Kindred damage right here, but he's going to be able to hop-bop his way away. Raze coming up to help and defend, but yeah, this has just been a game where they've butted heads. You can already feel the rivalry. It's tense in the studio.
It certainly is. The thing to factor in is Roccat, they pretty much had this game in the back very early on. They had so much control. They had...
Bold statement.
The map was pretty much theirs. They got themselves a 20-minute Baron. I mean, so many things have gone right for Roccat, and they've just overstayed their boundaries. They've tried to force objectives just in the wrong way. They've enabled themselves to get picked off by Gilius, to eat the crowd control from Fox, and really Roccat are just hindering their own success right now.
Still troubling signs, but at least they are trying, that's for sure.
They definitely look better.
I mean,
that's definitely...
This is a different Roccat team. They woke up today and said,
is.
guys, we're going to try for a 20-minute Baron because people keep saying we don't do anything in the early game. Well, they've definitely shut those critics up, that's for sure.
They certainly have.
They just need to clean up the gameplay. Right now, they're still rocking that lead. They have a slight dragon advantage, although with Oceans and Clouds, it's not quite as weighty as you might expect. But 26 minutes in, these guys have been all over the map.
They certainly have. And the big difference from today compared to yesterday is Roccat, with all these map plays, have actually drawn attention away from Betsy. So he's silently been farming on this Azir. 243 farm, already completed the Rylai's and the Nash's Tooth. He is going to be big in these mid-game fights.
Yeah. That being said, there's still a positional weakness with Airwaks. You can see him leaping over the wall to clear. The rest of the team was not right behind him either. Obviously, nothing happened there. He's able to clear away, but he's always on the front line. And the issue is when you've got Gragas barrels and Gnar ultimates, if you get knocked away from your team, I mean, he's got one way to save himself, and that's about it. One of these days, it's not going to be enough.
It certainly is true. And to be fair, he's already 2-2-3 right now, holding a lot of his team's death, combined with Parang, who has really struggled to get involved in these fights, but they really need to set up this 1-4 split push or try and force a fight around these neutral objectives. In the meantime, they just need to be controlling their sideways, which right now they're doing a decent job of.
Yeah, and on the positive for Airwaks too, he's also been very involved in when the team have been able to get a lot of damage. In fact, he has 100% kill participation at the moment, so he is very active around the map, but just a little bit maybe too far forward. Just think about it. Stand behind the Raze, and you should be a little bit more okay. Right now, Schalke 5-manning in the mid. The traffic cone will make them separate for just a moment, but neither team wanting to dive fully into the other, respecting the ultimates, respecting the damage. Baron comes up again in 20 seconds, and that will be the next hot objective.
It's very likely to be. I'm just having a look at some of the items that have been finished right now. Mortal Reminder actually been picked up by Fox, so nice item spike completed for him. He's actually on 3 completed items right now, which is a very big thing for the Varus' Airwaks. Goes in a little bit too aggressively, but he is going to get out of that one. All right. And I just want to keep my eyes on the wards as well, because if we just look at the vision difference, Schalke right now have set up a good defensive perimeter in their own jungle. They want to extend it ever so slightly, but they are very wary of the positioning of Roccat, who right now are somewhat lacking in terms of the vision department. They do not have the Tracker's Knife. They haven't compensated for it with the Sight Stone on top of Airwaks, and because he's gone for this aggressive smite, they are suffering a little bit in their ability to control the map.
All right. Schalke got inspired for a second. They did force Roccat out of the mid lane. They're actually pinging now to try and take out the dragon, but it's Airwaks who's got it down to 1,500. Just be able to get it himself.
Oh!
No! It's flourished right away from him. That's going to be taken out by RALLZ, so the second Ocean Drake this time falls into Schalke's hands. And that's got to hurt.
That was so painful to watch, because I was looking at it, and what happened was Airwaks, he hit the dragon, he smited it, the red buff brought it down to 1 HP, and then RALLZ stole it with the W. That is just, that is the worst way to have a dragon stolen from you.
Never lucky baby rage, man. All right, so no dragon on the Rift. It's Schalke with a lot of vision on the Baron right now, but Roccat are here to try and clear some of it out. With all the back timings, they actually have left this vision up to be contested, but you can't clear away the Scuttle. Let's take a look at that again. Yo, 1 health.
So unfortunate.
Oh,
so it wasn't quite the red buff, sorry, my bad, but it was still 1 HP. So
this is why you don't skip math class, by the way.
Yeah, gotta get that math right if you want to guarantee yourselves those smites. But something that you just mentioned, a lot of vision control around this Baron. Schalke do not want to give another free Baron away, so they are making sure that Roccat cannot sneak this one away. When you have an Azir paired up with that Kindred and Trundle, they do have actually very fast Baron taking potential.
Yeah, although for the time being, with the lack of vision, Roccat, they seem to have fallen a little bit back into this holding pattern.
Yes.
It seems like this team is right now swinging between extremes. The over-aggression that we saw a little bit earlier that was sometimes punished, and now back to the drawing board of, hey, we're just going to try and let them come to us. But at the moment, Schalke are going to bring this fight. They just don't want to step too far forward into the Azir damage, into the Lucian damage, and into Airwaks. If they can get a pick, they will go for it.
Yeah, this is exactly what you're saying. Roccat right now, they are struggling to know what to do, but Schalke's in the same boat. They want to try and get as much poke down as they can, so it's not really on them to try and force these fights. But they are in a good position to try and do it right now. They're sitting in a bush with a pink ward, and Roccat, they could walk straight into this.
For the attack on the wing, RALLZ does not step into the Jhin traps. Knows better than that. And Roccat, when they go all together, although Parang is a little bit farther out. Roccat are going to try to keep on the push. They've actually managed to sidestep Schalke entirely. The traffic cone comes up, but Gragas is belly bopped right over it. The tower, it's going down real fast, but they might have to fight their way out of this. Teleport in for the Gnar. He's big. This could be deadly. They're still right on the inhibitor. It's at half its health. Oh, this is tense. Let's see how it shakes out with Gilius popping the big barrel. Parang in the front line. Gilius, he's got to walk all the way out of his own base, and Airwaks, they've actually managed to stay together. Don't let the phalanx break, and Steeelback on the backside. It's high noon, but he can't find the kill. Speaking of, it's Jhin. That's going to be a flashover for RALLZ. Just dodging the damage. RALLZ has stayed alive. I can't believe Roccat have gotten out without casualty. Not over yet. Betsy, as soon as I say it, he's gone.
And look at Airwaks, he's trying to back in the back of the base, but he's just going to get executed to avoid giving away the kill. So in that whole exchange, Roccat get themselves an inhibitor and only lose one member. Fantastic execution coming out from Roccat, and they were the ones keeping Schalke at arm's length, but Schalke, they're going to respond with the Baron.
Yeah, it's revenge time. They may have had Roccat sneak behind enemy lines, but in the downtime with 22 seconds still on Airwaks and Betsy, this is going to be an uncontestable Baron. Schalke, great tenacity, but they just couldn't find the fight they needed. They're going to have to let some of that anger vent out soon.
So, unfortunately for Roccat, because they didn't have the members, they gave away the Baron, but have a look at this. Roccat, 5 members strong in the wrong base. Parang sits on the front line as the rest of Roccat just doing their best to kite back, and Schalke are just struggling to know how to focus. They want to get through Parang, but this ultimate from Airwaks just buys so much time. The problem is for Roccat is they really don't commit to the fight. Betsy holds on to his ultimate for such a long time when he could have tried to force the play. He decides not to do it, and just have a look at Airwaks in the base. You can see him on your minimap. He's trying to go back. Betsy gets caught on the back foot. He tries to re-engage. Bit of a misplay, ends up giving away that kill when he could have gone away. But other than that, overall, very good execution from Roccat to not only get the inhibitor, but disengage.
They definitely found a creative way to grab a base, but Airwaks is already gone, and now RALEZ is going to try to get some revenge, but I don't think he's going anywhere either. A double kill quickly onto RALEZ. Steeelback Ghost Blades into Coling, but this tower is going to go down real quick. Schalke have managed to find a huge opening here, but Gilius has got to be careful not to take too much poke in response.
Betsy, he still has his ultimate available, but he's decided that he doesn't want to overcommit and try and defend this turret. They're going to hold their own right now at the tier 3. Parang is very low, and Schalke, they're going to continue on with the siege.
Very, very even back and forth game. It's swung, but Roccat find themselves down after the inhibitor now will be evened up, answered as it were, for Schalke. A big swing off the back of that revenge Baron.
So Roccat not respecting the pick potential from Schalke and end up getting punished huge for it. Look at Airwaks playing aggressively, something that you mentioned earlier, Pyro, where he's always sitting on the front lines, he gets rooted up, takes the burst from RALEZ, who on his last shot gets that big crit, and just wasn't expected at all from Airwaks. He had his ultimate available, didn't get a chance to pop it, and Roccat just trying a little bit too hard to force that fight.
Oh yeah. So as it stands, 5-10 is our kill count, but this game has definitely looked even more action-packed than that. 34.5 minutes. The last elemental dragon is about to spawn up its ocean once again. So Roccat trying to put themselves in position for it, but Schalke are the ones keen to try and push down the mid and the top side, clear out the sideways, which were pushing against them prior to their big shove down mid. Roccat will secure Ocean Dragon number 2, which means we're going to have Elder up next. The Baron's still plenty of time away, so it's all going to be about the side lanes, as Schalke still rocking the buff. We're going to try to make use of it.
It certainly will be. Bear in mind that Schalke, they did lose their inhibitor first, which means that it's going to be up before Roccat's is, which means that it will get to a point where Roccat's mid will be under quite a lot of pressure from these super minions. But as long as Roccat can maintain the current wave management that they have been doing throughout this game, they should be alright, as now, again, both teams equalizing out on turrets, equalizing out on objectives. We talked about how this game was likely going to be close. Difficult to call, 50-50 matchup, and right now it's living up to that hype.
Oh yeah, the two teams are just so close in the standings, chasing a much better placement. Schalke, they flew out of the gates and just looked so good at the start of the season, but you know, they're back in a familiar spot. Yes, 7th doesn't mean as much when you're only a couple weeks into the split, but you know, it's really only one game behind Roccat, so every inch is going to count for both of these teams to try and improve their pole position going forward, especially with such an open middle of the pack at the moment.
Certainly will be, and now the real test comes in for Roccat, because Schalke, they are putting down the siege, and this is exactly where their composition wants to be. They have such good poke, they have such good ways to find picks if Roccat overextend ever so slightly and get caught out of position. And so Roccat, if they want to try and use that late game team fighting that they are so well known for, this is where they're going to have to force it.
Curtain call. Connects on to RALEZ for a time being, but this is going to buy just enough time for the minion wave to arrive. In comes Betsy, can't shuffle. RALEZ has a fancier set of feet, and now Betsy's got to go golden. Roccat members standing inside and staying alive. That's going to be a quick pickup. RALEZ will finally go down. Parang flashing away. This team just keeps defying death, but can they hold their tower? It doesn't look like it.
So RalleZ, he does not realize that he was standing outside of the Lamb's Respite. That did so much work for Roccat, keeping their members alive. He's sitting on the outskirts. Betsy manages to get the damage down. They get the kill down onto Schalke. They force Schalke back, and the fight that Roccat were trying so desperately hard to force, they finally get it for themselves.
So all on the disengage. Yeah, let's see this again.
So have a look. Keep your eyes on Betsy and what he decides to do. The response from RalleZ, instant flash to avoid that engage from Betsy. Betsy goes golden, and then the ultimate from Airwaks just at the right time. RalleZ, he was not expecting the turnaround coming out from Roccat. He thought he could get the kill and walk out of that one. It wasn't enough. And then Schalke, they don't have the minion raid to continue on with the siege, and they actually managed to hold off for a little bit longer.
Airwaks is a player that has been making such great use of the Lamb's Respite. This team, when they close in together and keep the phalanx, it's so hard to break through. At the same time, he's also cost his team so much. This is a guy that has simultaneously pretty much been the highlight and low light of the game.
Does seem to be that way. He had such a great early game to then only get caught out diving into the enemy base, giving away free kills to Schalke and giving them an avenue back into this game. And now, with the goal dead even, the turret's dead even, the kills ever so slightly in favor of Schalke, but that doesn't really mean much at this point. We're hitting a 4-item spikes for both teams, and these next two fights are going to get messy.
Oh yeah, just like a lot of the game has been, that's for sure. 38 minutes, and you know, it seems like it's Roccat territory, but this game has been anything but business as usual. Schalke clear through the Azir turret, start to plow down the mid lane, and you've got Steve V. Parang in the top side. Guardian Angel now on the Gnar. He'll be even harder to take out. 3-0-3 too. He's definitely had his presence be felt, even if the timings on the Gnar bar haven't been exactly what he's wanted all the time. His tower, not going to be long for the rift, but the mini wave cleared away real quick like, so they're going to have to wait for another one to come in. Roccat holding on to their base. Steeelback stepping too far forward. A quick flash out. And Airwaks, he's caught yet again, knocked out of the Lamb's Respite, flashing back in, gets the heal, stays alive. Steve on Gnar, everything is chaos, and Betsy's gotta go golden chicken, but Steve is gonna find him. Fox will take him down. Roccat overstepped their bounds, and Schalke collapsing on it. Double kill over to Fox. What more can he get? Looking for the inside of the base. Turret goes down. Gilius keeps him slowed. And that is a triple kill. How about a hat trick for Fox?
And Schalke get themselves the team fight. They get themselves the base, and they're likely going to get game one of this best of two between Roccat and Schalke.
We thought it was going to be late game Roccat, but this game proved everyone's expectations wrong. Schalke with a magnificent fight will take a 1-0 over Roccat just under 40 minutes.
Good turn.